Okay, so dear Poland Forum members, as we approach the significant holiday of Passover and Easter, symbolizing freedom and renewal, I extend my warmest greeting to you all. In the spirit of liberation and hope, we also wish for the release and safe return of all our hostages. I would like to thank Director of Institute, Professor Judy Barmel-Schwartz, and to you, to the Poland Forum members, for being with us today. Professor Judy Barmel apologized she could not participate with us today, but always I tell her about our meetings, and this meeting is also recorded. So, our speaker today will be Dr. Anna Stróż-Pawłowska, a researcher, a museologist, and art historian, as well as culture manager and licensed tour guide. She holds a PhD from the Catholic University of Lublin and completed her postdoc at the University of Cologne. The subject of her lecture today is the Holocaust memorial sites and the ongoing artistic discourse. I'm really, really thankful for you, Anna, Dr. Anna, that you come today to this forum to lecture. We met some years ago, and I always appreciate and admired your work. So the floor is yours today, and I'm sure it will be fascinating. Please.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm very grateful for the invitation. Uh, Thank you all also for joining us today. And I have to say that the part of this presentation, actually the core of this presentation, is a part of my new project, which I lead at the Pilecki Institute in the Center for Totalitarian Studies. It was supposed to take 3 years, and there'll be some partial effects publicated, of course, in the course of time. So, so much to say in such short time frame. So let me go directly to the presentation. First of all, a few words about the state of the research. The issue of Holocaust memorial sites has received an impressive number of research studies, so many publications, hard to mention, of course, for many reasons. First of all, this is largely related to this phenomenon of memorial sites, of lieux de mémoire after Pierre Nora, since at least 1980s. We observe this phenomenon of the so-called spatial turn. There is even such phrase, spatial turn, in the humanities, but also in other sciences, anthropological science, most of all. And it's really a special revolution. Even the universal issues, the universal research focuses on location, on genius loci. That's the first reason. The second reason, also, it's about, of course, the issue, the Holocaust issue, the memory of the Holocaust, or rather post-memory of the Holocaust, as Marianne Hirsch, for example, expressed it. Turning back to Pierre Nora himself did not leave behind a definition of a memorial site. From his writings emerges the metaphorical, ambiguous concept, according to which it should be rather seen as a site of remembrance, not a site of memory. That's why we do not need, it's not necessarily connected to the historical site. It's more about the commemoration process, the process of the collective memory. See Maurice Halbwachs, for example, or the cultural memory, das kulturelle Gedächtnis, speaking about Jan Assmann and Aleida Assmann. They are responsible for this phrase, for this term, which is also very popular in this research area. Perhaps the success of this phrase is primarily due to this semantic capacity, which is convenient for many researchers. That's the statement, for example, of Andrzej Szpociński or Cornelia Konchal, who very examined all those publications and the number of those publications which are using this phrase, lieu de mémoire, or the memorial site. Speaking about Holocaust, also we have to notice that this research conducted on Holocaust memorial sites, although understandably with a clear historical dominance, prefers not artistic, but rather anthropological or sociological literary perspectives. Just to mention collective work of Natalia Aleksiun, Hanna Kubatova, or post-conference publication by Janine Fubel, Alexandra Klei, Annika Wiener, published 2024, but so almost nowadays. But even in these publications, the issue of Holocaust memorial sites still emerges in the context of a broader issue of representation of the Holocaust in art, of this artistic memory of the Holocaust, as quoted by Steven Feinstein. Just to mention the works of Ernst van Alpen, Caught by History, Holocaust Effect in Contemporary Art, or the others, including Beryl Lang, Holocaust Representations, and Mark Rothberg, Traumatic Realism, The Demands of Holocaust Representations. Representation is another term, I wouldn't say misused, but very often very popular in those research. Luckily, and now I'm getting finally to the point, there are some publications strictly focused on the artistic form of the Holocaust monument, and for me and for many of us, the crucial publications, the crucial works are the text by James Young, who left this new definition of counter monument, the monument which is in opposition to the traditional monument, being its negation, but also its complement at the same time. Since then, since 90s, the role of the memorial space means more than the memorial itself. The intention of the creator, of the architect, plays the secondary role to visitors' perception. The works of Young prepared the ground for further research developing this idea. Just to mention the publication of by Quentin Stevens and Karen Frank, Memorials as Spaces of Engagement, or Eran Neumann, Shoah Presence. It must be admitted that on the Polish soil, among the researchers, it is the Lubliner Academic Center. For me, it's extremely important because that's also my environment, and I have to say that it was started with the really insightful studies of Professor Małgorzata Kitowska-Łysiak, and after that, student, nowadays Professor Marcin Lachowski, with the articles of Anna Ziembińska-Witek dealing with the issue of the Holocaust exhibition. So those three researchers created a great grant cooperating with Majdanek Museum with Dr. Tomasz Kranz, and they create really a new quality of those spatial memorial studies. The artistic discourse on the Holocaust memorial sites is initially long before the impressive monuments are being created, because we have to remember that actually the most of those most famous monuments in situ at the memorial sites, we are thinking most of all about the annihilation camps, were created in 60s. So shortly after the war, all we can see is the presence of the Holocaust memorial sites in visual arts. So paintings and sculpture and the creations of the eyewitnesses. in the first decades, we are dealing primarily with a testimony that distinguish this art from what will come later and will be a representation not of the memory, but rather a post-memory. Second, we observe the evolution of the form of representation. Most works created immediately after the Holocaust still reach for the traditional narrative and figurative form. The primary function in so many cases is to give a visual testimony of someone's own Holocaust trauma rather than to create an artistic work. Therefore, an opinion of the avant-garde art connoisseurs, Przemysław Smolik, that's the quote, that's the man who's responsible, for example, for the collection at the Museum of Modern Art in Łódź. After visiting one of the first after-war exhibitions, No More War, which was first exhibited in Lublin and then was presented in Łódź, he states, and that's the quote, unfortunately, I can't see the quote. The exhibition demonstrates conclusively, and not for the first time in the history of art, that the issue itself, even if so tragic, will not give the recipient a truly complete aesthetic experience if it's not expressed exclusively by means of visual art, but tries to move him, to stir his guts, with the help of purely external and non-artistic devices such as anecdote or narrative. Almost every exhibited work repeats this narrative verbosity. These episodes of street roundups, mass shootings, these piles of corpses, fires, ashes, and ruin. It was published in 1946, and it can give us imagine how the Holocaust art needs a new artistic device, a new form, because after Holocaust, as Adorno said, writing a poem would be barbaric, and so as in art, it is hard to find appropriate way to express such unimaginable trauma, unimaginable historical event. Speaking about this not verbosity, but this literal art, you see the one of this. This is the work of David Oller. David Oller, a Warsaw-born painter connected to the so-called Paris School, a Holocaust survivor and prisoner of the German Nazi concentration and annihilation camp in Auschwitz-Birkenau, and a member of the Sonderkommando. He was working in Crematorium 3 and was forced to empty the gas chambers. By the way, I know his works before the war, and there are some beautiful woman acts. They are very vivid, very robust, very sensual. And now you see this woman corpse here. For me, this comparison is really touching, really very, very meaningful. Another testimony, still more testimony than art, not only in my opinion, as you already heard. By the way, a few years ago, I think it was 2018, Auschwitz-Birkenau received his paintings, and nowadays I think they possess the largest number of his works, and that's why this monographic exhibition presented in Auschwitz. David Oller. Very similar to his works, but less literal and more surrealistic in this case, are the works of by the way, one of my favorite Holocaust painter, Holocaust artist, Felix Nussbaum. Felix Nussbaum, Osnabrück-born painter from the cycle of Neue Sachlichkeit, also, so we see this magical realism in his artistic activity. whose works in its expression are strictly referred to the tradition of here a self-portrait tradition of Hieronymus Bosch, for example. Look at this. You see something which should be connected also with the danse macabre, with the dance of death. So the motif so popular since late Middle Ages. Also, we see here decline of the culture. What we can see here in the front, in the foreground, are the achievements, cultural achievements of humanity, and the Holocaust is a break. After this break, such creativity, such activity is not possible anymore. Speaking about this evolution of form, here you have a great example of what can happen in the activity of one artist who survived Holocaust. We're speaking about Jonas Stern. Jonas Stern, who was born in Lviv and survived a transport to the German Nazi concentration camp in Belzec. He fled, then he returned to the ghetto, and then he survived the mass liquidation of the Lviv ghetto, hidden under the pile of dead bodies. So shortly after the war, he created a cycle of sketchings, of drawings, very literal, showing a case studies, showing particular events. But then he visited once again Lviv and the place, the site of those of this mass execution. And when he saw it, the spit, it all came back. And this work you've seen was created exactly after it and about it. The title of this work is exactly A Pit. And that's what he said about this confrontation with his experience. That all engraved my memory and got embedded, and quote. I've noticed it when I made a painting called A Pit. At first, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I was just making a painting. It became clear to me after visiting Lviv and the one of the local execution sites where a picture was taken. I look at that photo and suddenly I see my painting. That place was all the time inside of me. After the war, I escaped into painting, into social work, into fishing, all in order to forget about that. Although I miraculously survived, I still didn't save myself. That's a great sentence which touches me very deeply. I miraculously survived, but I didn't save myself. It is so severe, so grave that you will never get out of the words, not through art either. Jonas Stern, in his last interview by a former director of the Mozak, Masza Potocka. So we are losing over time this traditional means of expression. And when we are speaking about the artists who reach for new tools and trends, as the evolving postmodern art does, we have a great example of such struggle in Mirosław Balka works. A great example of depicting the Holocaust memorial site nowadays. You see the fragment of the cycle Winterreise, Winter Journey, a video installation made 2003. That is how artist expressed himself, explained the context of this work. Winterreise was a real physical experience for me, a winter journey. I went to Krakow and then to Birkenau specifically. I had been to Auschwitz, but I had never been to Birkenau before. It was cold. The driver waited for several hours, and I went on an expedition. I struggled with space alone in a place where so much pain had happened. Bauka's work is subtle yet poignant. It is not a scream intended to shock the recipient. It is rather this disturbing silence, which is even more overwhelming. But it can be read also as a reflection on condition of the Holocaust post-memory. It is very similar to what Ernst van Alphen says, that he draws attention to the fact that certain images related to the Holocaust have become almost icons of the Holocaust. It's postcards. He even created such work called postcard, using the picture of the Auschwitz-Birkenau, just to show this sometimes even misused by popular culture, that the standard representations have become yes, downright trivial through this constant repetition. When we are speaking about change in a form in monumental solutions, we have to remember about the first monuments erected after the war dedicated to Jewish people, in this case to Jewish resistance in Warsaw Ghetto. And James Young called it even as a memorial icon. This is the monument, not this one, that was the first monument at this site by Suzin, who apparently did not got the attention of the recipients. It seemed to be too humble, too the main charges were that it does not explain what exactly happened. And Nathan Rappaport, because that's the person we are talking about, the creator of this monument, everybody knows it. We are gathering here every year to commemorate the anniversary of the ghetto uprising, said that he wouldn't show a whole commemorating a Jewish nation. He wanted to show them exactly as they wanted to be remembered. So as people of great courage, of great honor, of people who were desperate to alive, who resisted actively or passively, just to get through this. So we see this monument of Warsaw Uprising Museum. Actually, that's the picture from one of those anniversaries. And that's what the author said about it. Could I have made a stone with a hole in it and said, voila, the greatness of the Jewish people? No, I needed to show the heroism, to illustrate it literally in figures everyone, not just artists, would respond to. This was to be a public monument after all. And what do human beings respond to? Faces, figures, the human form. I did not want to represent resistance in the abstract. It was not an abstract uprising. It was real. I wanted to show the Polish people who we really were. That's a fragment of the interview made by James Young. As mentioned, it was one of his first articles before he published in 1992, I suppose, the first article where the phrase counter monument, the theory of the counter monument appeared. That is how it looked at Statu Nascendi at the moment of creation. Many of artists are seeing the analogies between those sculptures and, for example, the sculptures of the Arc de Triomphe, the works of François Ruth. So it's very classical, but that's because he was classically educated in Academy of Fine Arts. in Poland before he left. On the other side of the monument, in the oppositions, very passive scene of the peregrination of those people condemned to death. So we have this contrast between those two elevations, and this contrast also is noticed by by critics. But first of all, some of positive words from the main creators at that time, Franciszek Strynkiewicz, for example, who was responsible for the monument in Treblinka 1. It happened later on. Then Jan Sybis, one of most famous painters, colorists, Jan Sybis, also connected with the French school in Paris, and Bogdan Pniewski, marvelous architect. They all agree that this monument is unexceptional. The choice of materials well thought out, the use of Labrador granite, unpolished, because it was made of Labrador granite. By the way, the German Nazis have wanted to use it in their monuments. The war was over, and by some I don't know even how to express it, but it was very funny that after all, this same material was used to commemorate those who were by then condemned to annihilation. So the use of Labrador granite unpolished combines well with the brown verdigris, and over the years, the patina will take on a deeper tone and will provide the right contrast with the stone. Then the others, everybody, Jan Sybis mentions the sculptures from the Pergamon, and that the creator is aware of the evolution of the form of the sculpture from Pergamon to Ruth, to François Ruth, I already mentioned. And the Bogdan Pniewski he made analogies between the monument and the Wailing Wall. Let me say that those first monuments, although dedicated strictly to Jewish nation, by some of surrealistic critics, are seen as the universal monument representing universal matters. You can read the Jadwiga Januszewicz article, The Newest Warsaw Monument. By the way, the wife of Jerzy Januszkiewicz, who together with Oskar Hansen created in Auschwitz-Birkenau this famous, unfortunately, only plan for the path for commemoration the victims of the Birkenau. So what she's saying is that the only strength of those people is their decision and consciousness. The most important is their will and courage to resistance. People who must die in the struggle do not suffer defeat. Of course, this idea, we have in mind this censorship of socialistic times, is dedicated to workers, to a new man, which was supposed to be created by new reality in communistic Poland. So the subjectiveness of this monument, the Jewish nation, the Jewish victims were sent to the background, to the from the foreground, and that's what we will see in the next decades. Many of those monuments, or in Treblinka or in Auschwitz-Birkenau, they are dedicated to victims of those camps, but very Actually, in the first inscriptions, Jewish nation is not mentioned at all, which is very surprising. We are going now to Auschwitz-Birkenau. What you see here is the monument, which was dedicated in 1967. What's very important, the international competition started almost a decade earlier, but it was really hard to find the sufficient form. First competition was not solved. Then only few monuments were, no, projects were chosen, but none of them would be satisfying, and that's why the jury led by Henry Moore, so one of the most famous artists of his time, the British organic abstraction artist, said that there will be nobody, if not Michelangelo or Rodin, who would express the genius loci of Brzezinka. So at the end, the jury has decided that there'll be some collective project. The group of few artists will work on this, and the final effect was created by Italian-Polish team by Pietro Cascella, Giorgio Simoncini, and Jerzy Jarmuszkiewicz and Julian Pałka on the Polish side. So what they were saying about their monument, we tried not to disturb the great silence of Birkenau, which itself creates a powerful monument. Our work avoids the scream and violence. It tries to be only an accent of the annihilation camp landscape, a materialization of the memory of the murdered. It is a tribute to their solidarity and dignity. It is modest and therefore human in its proportions and dimensions. As you can see, we are not speaking anymore about monument. When we are comparing this monument to Warsaw Ghetto monument, we see that we see this idea of the counter monument of the young a few decades before it was born. We see that we can't say any longer about a monument or memorial. We should say about the memorial foundation or monumental foundation, because the context is extremely important, is so important as the main accent, the sculpture or architecture is. These are the voices of those who run the gremias responsible for erecting this monument. So we have first of all the guideline of International Auschwitz Committee, the 4 participants of the competition. Does anyone see the picture? The slide?
We see the slide, yes. No,
but there is only words,
the text by Henry Moore. That's
yes,
what we
just
see.
text, yes.
I wasn't sure, that's why I asked. Again, you see has this universal language. Still, there's no focusing on Jewish martyrdom. And that's exactly also expressed the political situation by then, unfortunately. And it's also remarkable that this monument, but also the monument in Treblinka by Dushenko, Haupt, and partially Strynkiewicz, or the Tolkien monuments, they are erected shortly before, or exactly at the same time, before 68. So in these years where the anti-Semitism rises again, and it is really difficult to conduct those works. Of course, there are many factors, but I think that's one of those reasons why those competitions or these works are taking decades, even decades. So here you have Henry Moore. I already tried to signalize it is really possible to create a work of art that expresses the emotions of Auschwitz. In my opinion, a great sculptor, a new Michelangelo or a new Rodin could overcome the challenge. The chances of finding such a project among the large number of presented models were minimal, and no one has managed to accomplish this task. By the way, just for the competition in Auschwitz, more than 400 projects were sent. And the first stage of the competition was to pick up those 7 most sufficient, and then the second stage in 1958 ended, as I already mentioned. So non-project were satisfying, yet they decided not to prolong the competition. They decided to cooperate with another and create a final monument. There was one monument who was really exceptional. Here, for example, on the right side, you have the sculpture of Alina Szapocznikow, one of most famous Polish artists. Unfortunately, he was not taken into account. Helmut Wolf, also purely abstractive monument. And then we had this Oscar Hansen idea. Oscar Hansen, the father of the theory of open form, and that is how he wanted to commemorate the victims of Auschwitz-Birkenau. In the first stage of competition, we decided to slab over the 2 crematoria. This slab was the soil of Auschwitz petrified by using the Cebertowicz method. No gestures, no monuments. The small interior cut out in the slab was entered through a narrow diagonal gap. Steep walls and the sky above were the architecture of this interior. We placed a sanctuary with ashes in one of the walls. Then we started the second stage and rejected the first concept as too traditionally Christian, not to forgive near the altar, but to experience what experienced these millions of people. Hence the idea of the road, the background. We wanted to preserve the elements on the track of the road to perpetuate the universal human experience for others, just as Pompeii was immortalized by lava. The road is a cross-section through characteristic crucial elements. It was traced with the intention of showing the functioning of the camp, but the diagonal form of the road in relation to the camp remains is also something more. It is a deletion mark, and this deletion of traditional commemorating ideas in accordance with the idea of open form creates a new context, reveals the impact of the special interaction. The road is an open space for spontaneous reception. Oscar Hansen and the idea of the open form, which was too fresh, I think, and too feisty to be accepted by the members of the International Auschwitz Committee. I don't know why I can't move forward. Okay, that's the plan. That's the road, this mark, the slash through the Birkenau camp. So they wanted to preserve this space, although all was turned into ruins. And actually, and at this moment, the remains of the Birkenau were in so bad condition that everybody was afraid of that. If not now, that there will be nothing to commemorate. That's the project. And Here is on the contrary, the opinion of Seweryna Szmaglewska, one of those who represented the survivors option. The Hansen's work may hurt the feelings of former Auschwitz prisoners. Why? It is too theoretical. We cross out fascism. The author seems to be saying, we put a thick black diagonal line on the camp map. No more Auschwitz. This is excellent for a poster, illustration, or cover, but this vision, if executed, transferred to the vast area of the camp as a white road covered in snow or stamped during mass pilgrimages of thousands with Auschwitz mud, that clay, may completely lose its expression and message. She was worrying about it, not only she, and that's why this project, The Road, which Henry Moore found very interesting, and he was even going to apply as the to pick this project. Was finally he let go and not decided to push it forward. On the contrary, for James Young, the creator of the counter-monument definition, this is a brazen, painfully self-aware space of commemoration designed to put in question even the context that brought it into existence. There's another quote from not Oskar Jansen, but from Jerzy Januszkiewicz, who operated with him at this project, who said that the recipient, the visitor, is co-author. It all depends on him, what he will see, and we are only a regisseur who just pulls him and creates some frames to individual for individual Holocaust individual experience. Again, staying at the survivors and keeping their side. Martin Polak, Contaminated Landscape, sadly passed last month. It does not matter to the landscape who the perpetrator were and who the victims were. In many cases, the victims were also the perpetrators, and the perpetrators became the victims. And also the poem of Wisława Szymborska, the end and the beginning. Those who knew that was going on here must give way to those who know little and less than little, and finally as little as nothing. In the grass which has overgrown reasons and causes, someone must be stretched out with blade of grass in his mouth, gazing at the clouds. Beautiful phrases, but still we have to be aware that there is some limit for abstractive, theoretical representation. When monument loses its context, its idea, if it's not expressed. And I think that was what the survivors were afraid of. And by the way, I would also be afraid of that. After all, such monument, despite of how interesting, how groundbreaking it is, will lose his message. The photos from Treblinka camp, I always look at this green grasses and this green grass and those trees, how feisty they are in such place where nothing should be living, nothing should stay, and this contrast between this green and this landscape and those stones and this silence is yes, somehow overwhelming. When Franciszek Strynkiewicz, Adam Haupt and Franciszek Duszenko started to prepare the monument in Treblinka, by the way, one of, in popular opinion, one of best and most adequate Holocaust monuments. They understood that this monument could not be a conventional figurative sculpture. It should suggest drama. It should recreate a mood of despair and horror. And all three of us agreed that we would not achieve this by carving meticulously figures and shapes. Again, in Stato Nascendi, and the overview of the place with those 17,000 of stones. And again, if we can say that in commemoration of the Holocaust, there was some change nowadays when we are saying that every victim has a name, every victim has a face, and our main role is to bring those faces, those names back, then we have to say that at those times, those experiments of the form were for the creators much more important than this. And many of those monuments are completely anonymous. We can see the names of villages, towns where the victims came from, but we can't say names. The Korczak is an exception in this case, but still, such solutions as Yad Vashem, Hall of Names, or the wall at Memorial de la Shoah in Paris could happen nowadays. I mean, in 2000. Earlier, it was not a thing of great importance for the creator. So the history, but it goes parallel to the evolution of the history. It was a history of battlefields, of camps, not of individual stories. And that's what changed, and that's the direction we are all seeking. Again, Treblinka, never again. In a few languages, this narrow wall we see in the foreground leads us to, and that's the open question. Here you have the place where the crematorium was supposed to be located, but we know from more than 1 year that it's not the exact location. It was all during the making the plans of the Treblinka after the war. There were some mistakes made, and this crematorium was in another. Whole plan of the camp was a little bit pulled. I'm not sure, so I don't want to go in specifics because I actually should not to. And by the way, I'm not the right person to speak about, but I know that it was already published, and it's also very interesting how exactly this place looked like and how exactly this monumental foundation is moved in relation to this. One of my favorite elements of this commemoration, melted basalt. That's what the Adam Haupt wrote about it. I worked fiercely until I finally got stuck at some point. I got stuck on the concept of the crematorium symbol. It was one of the most important, I think, components of the whole concept. I felt what it should look like. I felt it, but I couldn't articulate it. I searched, I sketched, I made models in clay, plaster, ceramics, dozens of models, no and no again. I felt that I had to have a substantive material memory, the memory of hell. How do I get it? The language of architecture is not the language of words. The language of architecture is the language of form. How do you express in abstract form what is hell like? Molten basalt came to my aid.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Speaking about anonymous art and about those individual to be forgotten, to bring them back. Again, few poems. Wisława Szymborska, Hunger Camp at Jasło. History counts its skeletons in round numbers. 1,001 remains 1,000. As thought to one had never existed. An imaginary embryo, an empty cradle, a primer opened for no one. Air that laughs, cries, grows, stares to avoid bounding out to the garden. Nobody's place in the line. And Zbigniew Herbert, Mr. Cogito and the need for precision. Therefore, we have to know, to count exactly, call by the first name, provide for a journey. And again, Martin Polak, contaminated or tainted landscapes. The names of the victims are more important than the numbers, because only thanks to them we can tell the individual fates, which is an undisputable condition for bringing back these people out of oblivion and passing their story on to the survivors and descendants. And the Memorial de la Shoah as the solution brings those names back. And the fragment of the Yad Vashem exit. Now I'm not sure how much time do I have.
You have 2 minutes because we want to leave time for questions.
Okay, of course. Everybody sees the slide sharing?
Yeah. Yes.
And I can't see it. I don't know why.
Let us remember.
Yes, but I should. Okay. Let us remember. Yes, I was just going to show you some controversial examples of the commemorating of the memorial sites. But first, Ernst van Alpen, who is very similar to what the words who are very similar to what Mirosław Bałka said about the etiquette of Holocaust and some censorship, which is also which also exists. And in this context, I would like to show you the first work, which was rejected by the public, and it was it met the voices of contradiction, of condemnations, the work of Zbigniew Libera, Lego camp. He used the Lego to build a real camp and to show how the logic that behind this mass murder, behind this annihilation state, a logical system. My intention was a reflection on rationality and education. The thought that led me to this work concerned the very logic that is the basis of the Lego system and which seemed to be terrifying to me. You can't build anything from these blocks if a precise rational system will not allow it. These were 90s, but here Stephen Feinstein, the one who of the Holocaust art one of those people who were responsible for creating a new theories for the Holocaust commemoration in art, and he stays behind Zbigniew Libera idea, trying to explain it. Again, showing how the modern culture, the pop culture, uses also the motifs from the Holocaust. And most brutal and most controversial work by Artur Żmijewski called Berek, made partially in his basement and partially in one of those chambers at the Stutthof camp, which was, and the director of the Stutthof was not aware of it, This video was taken a few decades decades ago, but it rose controversies since Anna Rothenberg was attending to present it on the big exhibition in Germany, and the Jewish diaspora resisted and wrote an open letter. And after all, the main curator of the center decided to resign of this work. Piotr Tarnowski, the current director of the Stutthof camp, definitely condemned this idea, this work. And here, what Artur Żmijewski, the creator of this work, has to say. Berek is a voice of helplessness in the face of cruelty, a desire for the Holocaust not to happen. By the way, he was interviewed by Jacek Leociak, and this voice of support was published in Zagłada Żydów in 2021. Although nothing is so obvious, so Jacek Leociak puts many things in question more than says openly about it. Here's the story of Berek. I do not have time to read it. Hope that you...
We must finish.
Okay, so I think that's the right moment to stop. So as you see, we have a full spectrum of dealing with the issue of the Holocaust memorial site in art, from the testimony to the metaphor, from the traditional form to the abstraction, and from the monument to the counter monument, and from those commonly accepted motives to those who erased, who are putting everything in question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Anna. It was really fascinating, very interesting. And next chapter, what you did not do now, you can do it in another meeting. It's really very interesting. And I'm sure the audience have some questions, because Batya is really an expert in art, in monuments. So Batya, I think you have what to say.
What I have to say is a long lecture. I'm sorry. But just several things. I think that you have to define between commemoration and art. This is very crucial. It's a different attitude, and you have to divide them. This is one. Stephen Feinstein, the late Stephen Feinstein, my friend, and also James Young, were not art historians. Both of them were sociologists. So their point of view is not pure artistic, but more social. I wrote several, as Leah said, I wrote several articles, and in English, not in Hebrew. So you are more than invited to read them, to understand that the first memorials in Poland was not the Bet monument in Warsaw. There were others, mostly in cemeteries, and you are again invited to read things that I wrote. And I recommend you for Nathan Rappaport, which I also wrote about him, but I warmly recommended it to you to use this book. Look how serious this book is about.
It was translated to English? It was translated?
I'm not sure, but still, a researcher needs to take anything, it's out there. And this is a very serious book by Batya Donner. I can give you the contact to Batya if you need. And she writes about Nathan Rappaport's art, and especially about the heroes monument. And I think this is all, and I have a lot to say about what you presented. And if you want any remarks, we can be in touch afterwards.
Of course, I will make the contact, of course.
Because there are a lot to say, a lot to say.
Thank you, Batya. Thank you.
As I mentioned, I'm at the beginning of the way because this project just already started. Thank you for all these remarks, definitely. But I would say that, of course, they are not art historians, but it's also crucial to notice, as in Poland, Roma Sendyka and the Jagiellonian University, most of them, and that's what fascinates me, and that's actually what decided me for this project. That till now, about the art of the Holocaust memorials spoke everybody, but not art historians. So even in Poland, there is this Lublin Academic Center, but outside of this, when we speak about Mutesius, about those Sendyka, as I said, Molisan, about Szpociński, they are all only a few names. They are associated with sociology, with anthropology, also literature studies. Still, there is a lack of this strictly history of art perspective. Okay.
I know several of them if you want.
Still several, but not majority.
It doesn't matter, but if you deal with a piece of art, work of art, you have to, first of all, to address it as art, and then to enlarge the discussion with other disciplines, because art does not stand for itself. It needs support of other disciplines.
Okay.
But what is interesting that you mentioned that there is a transfer from looking on the memorials as something anonymous to during the decades to private. So if you take it in a different level area or subjects, like if you see the ceremonies, what texts were during the first decades in Israel, second decade, third decades, always it was to generalize, to take the numbers, the 6 millions, and to talk about general. And during the last decade, 2 decades maybe, you can see that the texts are very private, talking about the person, the name, like everyone has a name.
Face,
It's
faces of the
since
people.
the 70s, and then etc., that all the texts are very private. You can see it not only in commemoration of the Holocaust, you can see it also in the commemoration of national, the Memorial Day for the fallen soldiers. So during more and more, it becomes more, like you say, private. From the national to the private, and the texts are representing this.
And don't forget that Poland was under Russian occupation. And this also affected very much the monuments in the country. That's why Jews mostly are not mentioned. So there are all kinds of as I said, disciplines that you have to take into consideration, including political situation in the country.
Of course.
This is very crucial.
Communism. And when you take the monuments during the communist time.
Thank you.
The communist time, it's different than in the last decades. It's different monuments completely. As Batya said, the communist has a big influence on how the monuments are being were built.
That's why this quote Powiedz-Biga Jarmuszkiewicz, exactly, this universal values, but it was not about universal values. It was about the Jewish nation to the background. And that's why there's problems of the solution of the competitions. That's why this works on monuments, which took more than decades, of course. But what you are speaking, Leah, about this journey from the public commemoration, from the national commemoration to the individual commemoration, the
Yes.
individual memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's related to the evolution of the history at all. And yes, somehow it's, I remember Eva Koper from Belzec wrote this book, Every Victim Has a Name, then the projects of Golda Tencer in
Yes.
Jewish theater. So I think it's also very crucial. Oh, I lost this, the sentence. I'm sorry. Oh, my husband
Yeah.
came
So
to my.
our time is running, and I really appreciate, first of all, thank you very much. And also the discussion was very interesting. And I'm very happy because we have different guests from different countries. Even Avital was here from Mexico, and we have Mary from Ireland. Maybe Mary we have
Can I
Yes,
just say something?
yes,
I did my initial degree in art and design, so I was really fascinated with the whole thing. But one thing that struck me, I mean, Yad Vashem to me stands out as the monument globally that actually turns the if you like, a symbol of, turns the victims from a symbol of death to one person. Because when I've never been there, I've never been to Israel, but and it is my dream. But I look at Yad Vashem and I think when you see the tiny lights of the six, my research was on childhood under Nazism. So when you look at the children, it's almost like you're seeing them as one child. You can almost picture them as an individual child. And when I was looking, Anna, at your photograph of the stone, and the grass, all I could think of was the how diametrically opposed the cold concrete, the cold stone, and the green grass, and almost like death and life and continuation, and this everlasting, dies off, comes back, this regrowth of humanity. And I almost saw it, I suppose, as a representation of the Jewish people, the grass, that it was something that was growing amidst all of this horror.
Yeah,
And that's something you cannot, no matter how much you'll try, you cannot defeat. It will continue to grow. And that's the image I saw when I saw the green grass and the cold symbol of death, as opposed to the green grass of revitalization and life.
There is a remarkable arrangement at the Jewish Museum in New York. You see the stones, and there are holes in stones, and from these holes there are some trees inside. So
Yeah.
although anytime I'm at Treblinka, I say to those trees, "You should not supposed to be here. You should not."
No, no.
Feel too strong for me. But yes, you're absolutely right. And thank you.
So it's really very symbolic because we are before holidays, as I said, Pesach, and we pray that our hostages will come back and that we can flourish again, because the time is complicated. So thank you for a really fascinating intellectual evening. And if anyone would like to ask, we have 2 minutes, and that's it. And if someone would like to ask, this is the time. Yulia is here. Yulia, I'm happy to see you. Yes, she was listening to your lecture. Yes, we correspond. And okay.
I'm grateful for this contact to Dr. Batia, if Dr. Batia doesn't mind. And
Yes, I will make you the contact. Great.
thank you very much.
Okay, so good evening, and really I wish all of you happy, joyful Pesach, Easter, everything. And I will write you when it will be. The next meeting is on June, and I will write you. And this is all recorded, so who could not hear, he will hear it on record on the website. Thank you very much.
Shalom.
Shalom. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Leah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
How do I leave?
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.